In our gardens are hidden hundreds of wild stories that we rarely discover. Great dramas of life and death. Stories about teamwork or looking out for one's own interests. About standing on one's own feet. About doing the impossible, where mistakes can cost you dearly and life can change in the blink of an eye. But where the most incredible things can also happen. For a year, we find life as it unfolds in our gardens to get close to the secrets of the garden. Spring has already come knocking in the garden during the winter months. The first rays from the sun are warming, a lot earlier than we're used to. And that's a signal for all life to get started. Animals and plants start stretching and waking up in every corner of the garden. Some have been up all winter, but most crawl out from under the covers as it starts to warm up. And you see life start to spring in both the plants and the animals. And creating the next generation of baby animals can be a far more complicated matter than we ever imagined. And it's all getting started. Spring is this old female toad's alarm clock. From her winter den in the backyard, she slowly wakes up. This elderly lady can't move very fast. Her body's too cold for that. She's been cooled to 2 degrees Celsius all winter, so it takes a while for her to warm up. Even though this aging female is 15 years old, she can still have babies, and you can see she's ready. Her abdomen is distended and filled to the point of bursting. 7,000 little toad eggs are pressing from within. They've been in her stomach all winter and are now ready for fertilization. So there's no going back. She must travel all the way to the garden pond, where the male toads hang out. But that's easier said than done. The female toad follows her old habits. Every spring, she has returned to the same garden pond where she was hatched. And once again, she will doggedly venture out on her long and perilous journey. She has her own GPS that leads her back to the garden pond. The next 2 or 3 days can determine the fate of both her and her unborn toad babies. If she takes too long to reach her pond and have her eggs fertilized, they will swell in her fallopian tubes, and there's a chance she could burst from within. She can travel just 30 meters an hour, so it takes an entire week to hike the 4 kilometers to the garden pond. It's a long way for an old toad, and the spring heat is already adding great stress to her journey. And the clock is ticking. We have no idea how many hormones are floating around our gardens at this time of year. Often, we don't even see the animals because they are shy and hide from us while performing their mating rituals. One animal that puts everything on the line when broody is the female polecat. This female needs to find a male date very soon, or else her hormones could potentially kill her. The female polecat is related to the marten, and like her relation, is known to show up in our gardens every now and then. Usually shy, she's now out hunting for a male, so she must search everywhere, including the garden. She's incredibly curious. She pokes her nose into everything, sniffing for the scent that says a male polecat has been here. Compared to humans, she has 3 extra vertebrae, and she can make sharp twists and turns without injury to her back. The hunt for food and traces of a mate can leave destruction in her wake as she scurries around. She'll happily create a mess like a charming little hoodlum, ensuring she's investigated everything in the garden. This female polecat is full of excitement, showing that she's ready to mate. Her snout has caught the most seductive of scents, so she leaves her own scent all over the area to entice a male. Then she just hopes that a male polecat will catch her scent and seek her out. Not too far away, at the edge of another garden, a herd of wild rabbits are grazing. It's a rare sight to spot wild rabbits. They are descendants of escaped domestic rabbits now living in the wild as large families. They need to look over their shoulders now and again, because it's not humans, but predators watching the rabbits' every move. They hide in secret dens under the roots of the trees, where they can stay safe and live as a family. "12 days ago, this female rabbit gave birth to a small litter of kids. They've just opened their eyes for the first time. The new mother wants to give her kids the best start, so she lines the bed well with her hair that she picks from her own fur. The little rabbit siblings are already bonding with one another. They have to, because they rarely see Mum. She only lets them nurse for a very short while at a time, because she has to leave the den and feed herself to produce milk for the little ones. It's hard to imagine that in just a few weeks, these little kids will be ready to follow her. The kits are fed, and now it's Mum's turn. And with all the dangers of the outside world, each time she leaves the den to feed may be the last time the little ones see their mother. Most of the animals in the garden are up and about. Others are still a bit heavy with sleep and are just easing into spring. The queen bumblebee is barely conscious yet. She looks like someone who just woke up from a very deep slumber. But then again, she has been underground all winter long, fast asleep. As the new queen, she's the sole survivor of the winter, as both males, worker bees and older queens would all have died off since the last season. She was fertilized last year. Now she wants to go find a nest so she can lay her eggs. Flying in the cold spring ought to be impossible for a fat and heavy bumblebee. Her muscles are stiff, but once she's warmed up, she's a formidable flyer. But rotating her wings in precise patterns, 200 times per second, she creates the downforce that lifts her up and away. Right now, she's hungry. There aren't many spring flowers yet, but the ones we plant early, she tucks into. She eats the pollen and nectar to get energy to find a new home and lay her eggs. All over the garden, the spring flowers are starting to bloom. The sun accelerates it all. And from day to day, with these changes, everything in the garden looks new. All creatures can be seen hard at work as the nesting instinct is awakened. The queen bumblebee is still looking for a suitable place to lay her eggs. She needs to be able to build a warm nest underground soon if she is to have any hope of bringing through the next generation. But she knows where to look. In the grass somewhere in the garden, she's found an almost invisible hole. She needs to find something that's already been created because she's all on her own. So she usually moves into abandoned mice nests underground, and she's on her way to one now. But not all goes as planned, as the previous resident hasn't yet vacated the premises. The bank vole won't budge. It had plans of starting a large family here, underground. The vole stands on its right of ownership. It's 25 times larger than her, but that doesn't scare her. She's armed. Like other bees, she can sting. But unlike them, it doesn't kill her. She can attack over and over again. Now she can roll up her wings and get settled, and most importantly, get on with her egg production. But it'll be hard. She must lay and hatch 100 eggs, and then she must commute between larvae and flowers. It's a long, long time before her future daughters will take over. Above ground, it's hot. The temperature is high for this time of year, and the female toad ought to wait until dark to hike. But she's desperate because the eggs are waiting, and she's hungry. Hopefully, she'll soon be able to crawl into the cooling water of the garden pool. Like the toad and many of the other animals in the garden, a quirky little armoured animal is fighting the high temperatures. The pill woodlouse is in mortal danger out here in the open. She can dry out in the sun and quickly become a treat for the garden's birds and other woodlouse-loving animals. Many creatures in the garden can threaten her, but she has a brilliant defense when in a vulnerable situation. That's how she gets her name. You see, she rolls up like a pill and protects her soft belly. Not until she believes that danger has passed will she unfurl. Something's frightened her again. But maybe the coast is clear. The female toad got her much-needed nourishment. can change her saliva so it becomes like superglue on her tongue. And then in her mouth it becomes liquid again and loses its stickiness. But that's too late for the woodlouse. As we get deeper into springtime, exciting animals turn up all over the garden. In this pile of twigs, it's a male grass snake that's ready to leave its winter home. He registers that spring is in the air with his sensitive forked tongue, with which he smells and tastes. He senses no danger nearby, so he can find a peaceful spot in the sun where he can best increase the temperature of his cold and immature semen. The warmer he gets, the more semen will be ready for a female in heat. So now he needs to speed it up, so he can procreate at the garden pond. Down here, we'll easily gather 10 or 15 males fighting over the female grass snake. But a warm and willing body won't be enough when he's up against so many other males. He will need strength too. So first up, he needs a decent meal to get in shape. Now he's gotten wind of the female toad. The female toad is determinedly moving forward, but doesn't know what's waiting. She doesn't see very well. She actually experiences the world with a 3-second delay, which puts her at a disadvantage. Behind her eyes, she has 2 large glands with a deadly poison, which she might need very soon. The snake can look out for potential prey using its tongue. With his phenomenal sense of smell, the grass snake has caught wind of the waddling toad. With his forked tongue, he catches even the most subtle of pheromones. Normally, a grass snake can eat a toad. But there's a limit to everything. The female toad is a good-sized lady. And the humiliation is complete. The toad is totally unfazed. She even looks as if she's wondering if the grass snake would be a good mouthful. But no. The grass snake slithers on towards the closest pool of water. But the female toad is still far from her regular garden pond. In the rabbit den, the kits are on their own. Mum has gone out to eat. But being out in the open is risky business, so she's always very alert. Rabbits are timid and nervous animals, and for good reason. They are an easily caught treat for predators. The mother keeps a guarding eye on the rabbit colony, using its eyes, ears, and nose to warn of any lurking danger. If there is any, it can signal the others with its hind legs. And with their large rabbit ears, they can hear extremely well. A hare has snuck into the colony, and even though it's not a threat, they keep a close watch. In the den, the 3 little kids are missing their mother. In a few weeks, They'll be ready to follow her, but for now, they are too small and vulnerable to threats from the outside world, like the polecat. The small rabbit kits in the den got lucky this time. But outside the den, there's panic right now. The hare runs too. But one of the larger kits in the family didn't make it away from the polecat on the hunt. The female polecat is still hunting, but this time for an experienced male to mate with. So she's left her scent in the grass. And someone's taking the bait. A suitor is here. He seems very young, and that might become a problem. For now, he's investigating. Her scent in the grass excites him. The young male is clearly interested because he starts leaving his own pheromones in the grass. He's a virgin male and knows that he has to warn other males that this is his territory. Now he has to prove to her that he's interesting and do all that he can to impress her, so she doesn't move on to the next male that comes along. Even though he's young, she's still interested. Her sex glands are very swollen, and inside her estrogen levels are shooting up. She's very primed for mating and preens herself. The question now is whether or not he's man enough for her. Polecat mating can resemble an assault. It looks violent, and it is. It can last for hours. The young male must overpower his female polecat with a firm, hard bite to her neck for her to ovulate. At the same time, she's testing him. If she can escape, he's not worth mating with. Right now, he's all worked up. He can't get hold of her neck, and she's testing him. But if he doesn't succeed in dominating her, there's a chance she may die. She won't ovulate, so her hormones will continue to rise until her organs fail, and she could die from anemia. Finally, he gets himself firmly attached to her neck, and the female polecat surrenders. Now the intercourse can begin. If the male polecat was more experienced, it might have been over in an hour, but all beginnings are difficult. So she must put up with being shaken about while the young male struggles with the act. As time passes, he gets more and more exhausted, and the question is whether he'll even be able to finish mating. But finally, he delivers what he needs to. After 3 long hours, it's over, and she recovers. It was difficult and sweaty, and not to be repeated anytime soon. The young male, however, is proud of his achievement and needs to mark it. Polecats only have one-night stands, so if her fairy tale with the inexperienced male has borne fruit, she can look forward to life as a single mother. She doesn't need the male anymore, so he takes off. Whether a new generation will be a reality is now up to her. As we move further into spring, all of nature seems to be alive. And we can witness the most beautiful sight when the cherry trees blossom and put on a show for us all. In the grass under the trees, the male grass snake has made it to the spot in the garden, which year after year is like a magnet for a large group of excited grass snakes. This spring is no exception. The male determinedly slides in among the others. There's just one female and way too many males in the pile. He squeezes himself in there in the hopes of being the one who gets the opportunity to release his now warmed semen. It all seems incredibly random, and maybe it is, but at the same time, it's a ruthless fight to push away rivals with his tail while he tries to insert one of his 2 sex organs into the female. And he's in luck. This is what 2 grass snakes procreating looks like. They are stuck together because the penis is covered in hooks and barbs. It's important not to finish too soon. The other males are still looking for an opportunity. The little male did it. He's accomplished his most important mission in life. Come autumn, he will contribute 20 to 40 new small snakelets who he will never see, but who will carry on his genes. Just outside the garden, a colourful male pheasant is prancing about, not far from a little female. He moves forward with small jerks and twitches, assessing the lay of the land. Time to impress her. But he's not alone. Another male has also spotted the smaller female pheasant. The new suitor, however, knows very well what it will take to attract her attention. There's nothing like a dust bath to make your plumage look impressive. The dust works like a nice soap that keeps lice and fleas away, and the plumage dry and clean. The first male hasn't given up yet. But she seems to have chosen the dust-bathing suitor. The critical thing is how shiny it is. The females love the shiny plumage. But still, maybe she hasn't decided yet. The first male pheasant has found his spirit again, and there's only one option. To win the little female, the distinguished males must risk their plumage. A pheasant fight is unavoidable. It's an almost ritualized fight. They must flap and punch high before the little pheasant female is satisfied. It's all about running off the competition. They can keep going for 30 minutes until one gives up. In rare cases, they fight to the death. The little female is impressed. There's nothing like a good brawl to determine the choice of future father, and the dust-bathing male was entirely superior. But even with good genes, it can end badly for her future chicks. That'll be determined by whether or not she can hatch her eggs in peace from the predators lurking around the garden. The female toad is also keeping an eye out for potential enemies about, but the coast seems clear. She's been hiking for several days. The garden pond isn't far off now, and that's good, because she's about to burst from the many eggs in her belly just waiting to be unloaded into the water. But she's not alone. A tiny, randy male toad has caught up with her. The male toad doesn't want to mate right now, but wants to ensure that he's the first in line when she reaches her garden pond. Because then he might be the lucky guy that gets to fertilize her many eggs when it all kicks off in the water. He hooks onto her and has no intention of leaving. He hangs on and makes her even more heavy. But she's a tough lady. An extra little backpack on top of all the eggs in her belly could mean she won't manage the remaining distance and make it to the garden pond. So she tries to push him off. But he stubbornly holds on. The next few meters could determine her fate. Finally, she's reached her goal. The female toad is back in the garden pond she visits year after year to lay her eggs. This is finally it. But who will be the father of her babies? Another male has spotted the attractive female toad. And now the surface is alive with enthusiastic males crowding around her. The males are so eager, they sometimes even throw themselves at each other. A certain squeaky croak meaning, "Get off, I'm a male." It's usually chaos when toads mate. Females risk drowning because the males are so eager. And the female toad is under pressure now. But finally she and the little male escape the horny masses. She's made up her mind. She rewards his stubbornness. The little male can calmly wait for her to release her eggs into the water so he can inseminate them. Now she lays her eggs. They float around the water like a string of pearls. As the jelly-filled egg strings are laid, they get tangled up in everything. The garden pond is now full of delicate little eggs from all sorts of toads and amphibians. In 4 weeks, we should see small tadpoles scurrying around the surface, and they, like their aging mother, will return to this particular garden pond where they were hatched. Down the abandoned mouse hole, the queen bumblebee's work is finally starting to pay off. She's still laying eggs, but the first larvae are starting to stir in their little cocoons. They are warm and safe in the closed hives, which she laboriously constructs out of wax. But soon it's time for the larvae to leave this snug cocoon. The hard-working queen finally has some company. A bunch of little bumble girls have hatched and can now help their queen mum around the house. They pitch in with their younger siblings in the little cocoons. One is busy moving the little eggs and distributing them in the cocoons, so they have room to grow. Some of the girls will become queens themselves and won't lift a finger. The male bumblebees are the last to hatch. When the bumblebee girls aren't minding eggs and larvae, they have other tasks. The many bodies and the warm spring is making the nest overheat, so one of them must air it out. She acts as a living fan outside the nest. Some of her sisters are getting impatient. They've already been out a few times and are perfect flyers. She also needs to go gather and pollinate the first time. She warms up and gets started. She circles quickly to check the landmarks around the nest so she can find her way back. Then she takes off. And with all her sisters, she now flies out to pollinate the flowers. It's been 2 weeks since the little female pheasant was seduced by the winning male suitor, and it's gone well. She's laid 6 delicate eggs of different colours in a hidden nest in the tall grass. If all goes well, the first little pheasant chicks will break through the shell and chirp at the world. The young mum is away from the nest for a short while to find food. And that's enough to change everything in the blink of an eye. no chicks this time around. Nature can be generous to some and cruel to others. In the rabbit den, the three siblings have grown, well assisted by their mother's milk. They are now big enough to leave the den for the first time. But first, their mother checks if the coast is clear. It can be dangerous out there. The inexperienced kids could easily fall prey to the larger animals around. Do the little ones dare to follow their mother into the big world? They don't seem ready. But there's a sense of adventure. One brave little kid risks it and is followed by its siblings. Now they can enjoy the fresh green grass and meet their large family. But there is a predator close by. The animal, however, is focused on something else. The female polecat has spotted the already well-made home. Something like that isn't on the market for long in nature. And she'll be in dire need of it in the times to come. Because the female polecat has become a mother too. As a single provider, she's kept busy by her small, lively pups. And so life continues in the gardens during the warm spring months. Lots of new life and new stories, with secrets all over the lawns and hidden underground, where big dramas unfold between the largest and the smallest, comparable to any wildlife in the world, and where anything can happen.